John Newton speaks to us about the law of God. And he says that the law of God in its largest sense is that which he appoints for all of his creatures, all of his creation, to do according to his design. And yet specifically for that one part of his creation that is designed to bear his image, humanity, there is a sense in which the law of God has a finer point. And Newton writes, "The law of God concerning man," that is, concerning humanity, "is that rule of disposition and conduct to which a creature so constituted," in other words, a creature created to bear the image of God, that disposition and conduct to which a creature so constituted ought to conform. There's an obligation, there's a duty to which the creature created in God's image must conform. Now, this law of God, this conformity, was given first to Adam in the Garden of Eden. Adam, as humanity's representative, was to obey God, to obey his law, to act in accordance with God's design. Now, the specific manifestation of that law was the command not to eat from the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Now, Newton says we're not to suppose that this prohibition, that single prohibition, was the whole of the law of Adam. In other words, we shouldn't suppose that that was the only thing that God had wanted Adam to do, so that if he had abstained from the tree of knowledge, he might in other respects have done whatever he pleased. No, he had to completely obey in all respects what God had designed him to do. But Newton says this injunction, that is, that rule not to eat from the tree of the knowledge of evil, was the test of his obedience. And while he regarded it, he could have no desire contrary to holiness because his nature was holy. In other words, he wouldn't have wanted. So long as he was obeying God's command to not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, it meant his heart. It signified that his heart was in conformity with God's desires and God's wills. But when he broke it, when he broke that command, when he broke through that commandment, he broke the whole law and stood guilty of idolatry, blasphemy, rebellion, and murder. All of these things then lead to the curse that continues to affect us today. A curse that specifically results in our death as we disobey God, as we seek to go our own way and rebel against his authority. And yet God remained faithful to Adam, faithful to a people who would trust in the promise that he made to Adam. And he says, Adam became a transgressor and incurred the penalty, death, but God, who is rich in mercy, according to his eternal purpose, revealed the promise of the seed of the woman and instituted sacrifices as types of that atonement for sin for which he, in the fullness of time, should accomplish by the sacrifice of himself. God was faithful to his covenant promise, a promise that he made to the woman that a seed, a descendant would come from Eve who would crush the head of Satan, and sin and its consequences would be defeated.